Soft, emotional tone. Mom, why did you stop making those lunches? Pause. That question. Those 8 words. They shattered me in ways I never expected. My son stood in the kitchen doorway, 14 years old, holding an empty Spider-Man lunchbox, the same one I'd filled every single morning for 18 months straight. His voice wasn't angry. It was confused, hurt, even at me. I was sitting at that same kitchen table where I'd spent countless 5 a.m. mornings, stone cold sober for the first time in weeks, staring at the bottle I promised myself I'd never touch again. Pause, voice breaking slightly, before I tell you what happened next. Don't forget to subscribe if you love true stories about real struggles, second chances, and the invisible sacrifices parents make. Then tell me in the comments, what would you have done if you tried to change everything about yourself and nobody noticed until you stopped? Deep breath, steadier tone. Let me take you back to where this all started. Reflective, slightly ashamed tone. My name is Sarah. I'm 42 years old. And for most of my adult life, I was a functioning alcoholic. I hate that term. Functioning? Like it made it okay. Like because I held down a job as a medical receptionist and paid the bills on time. The bottle of wine or 2 or 3 I drank every night didn't count. My son, Tyler, was 12 when my husband left. Daniel didn't leave because of the drinking, though God knows it didn't help. He left because we'd become strangers living in the same house. 2 people who'd forgotten why they'd fallen in love in the first place. Pause, but Daniel leaving? That made everything worse. Suddenly, I was alone, single mom, sole provider. And the only thing that quieted the noise in my head was that familiar burn of whiskey going down my throat. Softer, vulnerable. I wasn't a mean drunk. I never yelled at Tyler, never forgot to pick him up from school. But I was absent. Even when I was there, I wasn't really there. I'd make him frozen dinners, sit on the couch with my glass, watching TV without really watching anything. He'd tell me about his day, and I'd nod, smile, say, "That's nice, honey," but the next morning, I wouldn't remember a single word. Tyler adapted. Kids do, don't they? They adapt to whatever broken version of normal you give them. He learned to make his own breakfast, pack his own lunches, usually a granola bar and whatever he could find, do his homework without asking for help. He became so independent, so self-sufficient, that I convinced myself he didn't need me. Voice hardened slightly. That's what I told myself, that he was fine. That I wasn't failing him, that deep down I knew. I knew I was drowning, and I was pulling him under with me. Emotional raw. Rock bottom came on a Tuesday. Pause. It was March 15th. I remember because it was Tyler's 13th birthday. I promised him we'd go to his favorite restaurant, that Italian place downtown with the breadsticks he loved. I'd promised him a real celebration. Mother-son time. I got off work at 5. Stopped at the liquor store just for one to take the edge off. Just one drink to calm my nerves before dinner. Long pause, voice thick with shame. I woke up at 10 p.m. On the couch, the TV was still on. My phone showed 6 missed calls from Tyler. He'd waited. He'd gotten dressed up in the nice shirt his father had sent for his birthday. He'd sat by the door with his jacket on for 3 hours. When I stumbled into his room to apologize, he was lying in bed, still fully dressed, staring at the ceiling. He didn't cry. He didn't yell. He just looked at me with these empty eyes and said, "It's okay, Mom. I'm used to it." Voice breaks. I'm used to it. Those 4 words sliced through my alcohol haze like a knife. My 13-year-old son was used to being disappointed by me. Used to being forgotten. Used to coming second to a bottle. I stood in his doorway, swaying slightly, mascara smeared down my face, and I saw myself through his eyes. I saw the mother I'd become. Pause, steadier. That night, I poured every bottle in the house down the sink. I called my sister at midnight, crying so hard I could barely speak. I told her everything. And the next morning, with my hands shaking and my head pounding, I made a promise to myself. I was going to change. I was going to become the mother Tyler deserved. No matter what it took. Determined, hopeful tone. They don't tell you how hard it is to quit drinking. Not just physically, though those first weeks were hell, but emotionally, because alcohol wasn't just a drink to me. It was how I coped. How I numbed the loneliness, the guilt, the crushing feeling that I was failing at everything that mattered. Without it, I had to feel everything. All at once. Pause. I started going to AA meetings. 3 times a week at first, then every day. I'd drop Tyler at school, work my shift at the clinic, then drive to the church basement on 5th Street and sit in a circle of strangers, admitting out loud, "My name is Sarah and I'm an alcoholic." I got a sponsor, Linda, a tough love woman, in her 60s who'd been sober for 23 years. She didn't let me make excuses. When I called her crying at 2 a.m., craving a drink so badly my teeth ached, she'd talk me down. Remind me why I was doing this. For Tyler, I'd whisper into the phone. "No," Linda would say firmly. "For you. You do this for you first, Sarah, then everything else follows." Softer, reflective, but in my heart, it was for Tyler. Everything was. For Tyler, I started setting my alarm for 5 a.m. every single morning. Even weekends, I'd drag myself out of bed, body aching from withdrawal, mind screaming for relief, and I'd go into that kitchen. I'd make Tyler's lunch, not just any lunch. The good lunches. The ones I'd seen other moms make in those stupid perfect family Instagram posts. Turkey and avocado sandwiches on whole grain bread, cut diagonally the way he liked. Baby carrots and that ranch dip he loved. Apple slices with peanut butter. A juice box. And every day, I'd tuck a little note into his lunchbox. Stupid notes. Corny mom stuff. "Have a great day, kiddo. You're my favorite human. Remember, you're braver than you think." Pause, voice warming. I started showing up for him in all the ways I hadn't before. I'd help with homework at the kitchen table instead of zoning out. On the couch. I'd ask him real questions about his day and actually listen to the answers. How was the math test? Did you sit with anyone new at lunch? What are you reading in English class? I learned the names of his friends. Remembered that Jackson was the funny one, and Marcus played basketball, and Emma was the girl he maybe had a crush on but would never admit it. I went to his basketball games, all of them. Even the away games that meant driving 45 minutes. On a Tuesday night when I was exhausted from work, I'd sit in those bleachers. Stone cold sober, cheering so loud other parents would look at me funny. But I didn't care. I was there. Actually there. Pause, vulnerable. And you know what Tyler said? Nothing. Not one word. He'd come home from school, open his lunchbox, eat the food I'd made. He'd glance at the notes, crumple them up, throw them away. He'd nod when I asked about his day, give me one-word answers. Fine, good, whatever. At his basketball games, he never looked up at the stands, never acknowledged that I was there. Voice tightens. I told myself it was okay, that it would take time, that I'd hurt him too deeply, and I had to earn his trust back. Linda kept telling me, "You're doing this for you, Sarah, not for recognition." But God, I wanted him to notice. I wanted him to see me. Tired, strained tone. By month 6, I was exhausted. Staying sober took everything I had. Every single day was a battle. I'd walk past the liquor aisle in the grocery store and my hands would shake. I'd see other moms at Tyler's games drinking wine from Yeti tumblers, laughing and relaxed, and I'd feel this ache in my chest. One drink, just one, to take the edge off, but I didn't. I stayed strong. Pause. Month 9. Still sober. Still waking up at 5 a.m. Still making those lunches. Tyler was 14 now. Growing taller, voice deeper, pulling away the way teenagers do. He'd come home from school, grunt a hello, disappear into his room with his phone. When I'd ask about his day, he'd barely look up. How was school? Fine. Anything interesting happen? Not really. Did you like your lunch? Pause. It was fine, Mom. Fine. Everything was always fine. Voice breaks slightly. I started to wonder if I was invisible. If all this effort, the sobriety, the early mornings, the lunches, the games, the trying if any of it mattered, because from where I stood, nothing had changed. Tyler still kept me at arm's length, still treated me like I was just there, a fixture in the house. The lady who made food and did laundry, not his mother. Not someone he loved or trusted or needed. Better laugh. Linda would say, trust the process, Sarah. Healing takes time. My sister would say, he's a teenage boy. They're all like that. But I wasn't asking for much. I wasn't asking him to throw his arms around me and say, Mom, thank you for changing your whole life for me. I just wanted something, a smile, a real conversation. A sign that he noticed I was different, that the woman making his lunch at 5 a.m. wasn't the same woman who'd passed out and missed his 13th birthday. Pause, voice heavy. But I got nothing. And slowly, quietly, I started to break. Defeated hollow tone, month 15. I was at Tyler's basketball game. Away game, 40-minute drive, freezing cold gymnasium. I'd left work early, drove through rush hour traffic, got there 10 minutes. Before tip-off, Tyler's team was warming up. I found my usual spot in the bleachers, 3 rows up on the left. I waved at him. He didn't wave back. Didn't even look in my direction. Pause. The game started. Tyler played well-made, 2 3-pointers, couple of assists. Every time he scored, I jumped up cheering. Other parents smiled at me politely, but I could see it in their eyes. Who's this overly enthusiastic mom? After the game, I waited by the locker room like I always did. Tyler came out with his friends, laughing about something, gym bag slung over his shoulder. Hey, bud, I called out. Great game. Those 3-pointers were incredible. He glanced at me, barely paused. Thanks. Jackson's mom is giving me a ride home. Pause, voice thick, and he walked right past me. Climbed into Jackson's mom's SUV without looking back. I stood there in that parking lot, under the fluorescent lights, watching the taillights disappear. Other families were climbing into their cars, talking and laughing, and I was alone. Voice breaks. I drove home in silence. No radio. Just me and the sound of the heater and thoughts screaming in my head. What's the point? Why am I doing this? He doesn't care. He doesn't even notice. Pause. I got home. Walked into that kitchen. The same kitchen where I'd stood at 5 a.m. that very morning making his lunch. Turkey sandwich, carrots, apple slices, note tucked inside. Proud of you always. Thrown away. Just like all the others. Long pause, voice hollow, and I saw it. Sitting in the back of the pantry, behind the cereal boxes where I'd hidden it months ago and forgotten about it. A bottle of whiskey. 3/4 full. Pause, I told myself I'd pour it out. That's what I'd do. Pour it out and call Linda and tell her I'd had a weak moment, but I'd gotten through it. But my hands were shaking, and my chest hurt. And I was so tired of trying, tired of being invisible. Tired of fighting a battle nobody seemed to care about. Pause, barely above whisper. I opened the bottle, and I drank. Ashamed, defeated tone. 1 drink turned into 3. 3 turned into half the bottle. I didn't pass out. Didn't black out. I just sat there at the kitchen table, feeling that familiar numbness creep back in. That sweet, terrible relief. The noise in my head finally quiet. Pause. Tyler came home an hour later. Let himself in with his key. I heard his footsteps, heard him open the fridge, grab a soda. He walked past the kitchen. Saw me sitting there with the glass in my hand. For a second, our eyes met. I waited. Waited for him to say something. Anything. He looked away, went to his room, closed the door, voice hollow. He didn't even care. Pause. The next morning. I didn't wake up at 5 a.m. I woke up at 7:15, head pounding, mouth dry. Tyler had already left for school. No lunch made. No, nothing. Told myself it was just one day. One slip. I'd get back on track tomorrow. But tomorrow came, and I slept through my alarm again. And the next day. And the next. Pause, voice thick with shame. I stopped going to meetings. Stopped calling Linda. Started keeping whiskey in my purse, sneaking. Sips in the bathroom at work. I wasn't drinking as much as before. Not yet, but I was drinking, and with every drink, that voice in my head got louder. See? Nothing you do matters anyway. He doesn't care if you're sober. You tried, and it changed nothing. Pause. I stopped making Tyler's lunches, stopped asking about his day. Started coming home from work and going straight to the couch with my glass. Just like before. Just like the old days, I'd look at Tyler across the dinner table frozen pizza, because I couldn't be bothered to cook, and I'd wait for him to say something. To ask why I'd changed back, but he didn't. He just ate his pizza, scrolled through his phone, said goodnight, went to his room, like nothing was different. Long pause, and that hurt worse than anything, because it confirmed what I'd suspected all along. He'd never noticed I was trying. So of course he didn't notice when I stopped. I was invisible either way. Soft, emotional tone. It was 3 weeks later when everything changed. 3 weeks of slipping back into old patterns. 3 weeks of drinking, sleeping late, checking out, pause, that. Morning, I'd woken up at 7:30, hungover. Tyler was in the kitchen, making himself a granola bar for lunch. I watched him from the doorway. Watched him wrap it in a paper towel, shove it in his backpack. His movements were automatic, practiced. He'd done this before. For years, he'd done this. Pause. You're gonna be hungry, I said, my voice rough. That's not enough lunch. He shrugged. It's fine. Fine. Always fine. Pause. He grabbed his backpack, headed for the door, and I thought, this is it. This is my life now. Back to where we were, but then he stopped. Hand on the doorknob. Shoulders tense, and without turning around, he said, pause, voice barely audible. Mom, why did you stop making those lunches? Long pause, I froze. Stared at his back, at the way his shoulders hunched like he was trying to make himself smaller. What? I whispered. He turned around then. Looked at me with these eyes that were too old for 14. Eyes that had seen too much. The lunches, he said quietly. The ones with the sandwiches and the notes. Why did you stop making them? Pause, voice breaking. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't speak. Because for 18 months, I'd made those lunches. Every single morning, and he'd never said a word. Never thanked me, never acknowledged them. I thought he didn't care. Didn't notice. I didn't think you ... I struggled to find words. You never said anything. You never seemed to care. Pause. Tyler's jaw tightened. He looked down at his shoes, those worn-out Nikes I kept meaning to replace. I read them, he said, so quietly I almost didn't hear. The notes. Every day. I read them. Voice breaks. I save them. Long pause, barely holding it together. The room tilted. What? He walked past me, down the hallway to his room. I followed, my heart hammering. Tyler opened his closet door. Reached up to the top shelf. Pulled down a shoebox . And when he opened it ... pause. Crying. Notes. Hundreds of notes. Every single stupid corny note I'd written and tucked into his lunchbox. He'd kept them all. Smoothed them out, stacked them carefully. Have a great day, kiddo. You're my favorite human. Remember, you're braver than you think. Pause, voice shaking. I thought ... double quotes. Tyler's voice cracked. I thought you stopped because you were done trying. Because I wasn't worth it anymore. Crying openly now, I fell to my knees right there on his bedroom floor, that shoebox of notes in my hands, and I sobbed. Sobbed like I hadn't sobbed in years. Baby, I choked out. Baby, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Tyler stood there, awkward the way 14-year-old boys are when emotions get too big. But then he sat down next to me. Shoulder to shoulder. I noticed, Mom, he whispered. I noticed everything. The lunches, the games. The way you'd ask about my day and actually listen. The way you weren't fuzzy anymore. Weren't gone even when you were there. Pause. I just didn't know how to tell you. Pause, steadier now. I looked at my son, this beautiful, broken kid who'd learned to be so independent because I'd forced him to be. Who'd kept every note I'd written because they mattered to him, even if he couldn't say it. I messed up, I said. I messed up so badly, Tyler. I gave up because I thought you didn't care. But that's not fair. I should have been doing it for the right reasons, not for recognition. Just because you deserve a mother who shows up. Pause. Tyler was quiet for a long moment. Then, are you drinking again? Pause. The truth hung between. Juice, heavy and unavoidable. Yes, I whispered. I started again 3 weeks ago. Pause, I noticed, he said softly. Long pause, of course he had. He'd always noticed. Even when I thought he didn't. Determined, hopeful tone. That conversation changed everything. Not because Tyler forgave me, or because we suddenly had a perfect mother-son relationship. We didn't, but because I finally understood, this wasn't about whether Tyler noticed. It was never about whether anyone noticed. It was about whether I could look at myself in the mirror and be proud of who I saw. Pause. That day, I called Linda, admitted I'd relapsed. Went back to that same evening, stood up in front of the group and started over. My name is Sarah, and I'm an alcoholic. Today is day 1. Pause. The next morning, I set my alarm for 5 a.m., and when it went off, I got up. I made Tyler's lunch. Turkey sandwich, carrots, apple slices. And a note, I'm trying again, and I won't stop this time. I love you. Mom. Pause, voice soft. When Tyler came down for breakfast, the lunchbox was sitting on the counter. He looked at it, looked at me. Mom, you don't have to. I know, I interrupted gently. I'm not doing it because I have to. I'm doing it because I want to. Because you matter to me, and this is how I show it. Pause. He picked up the lunchbox, unzipped it, pulled out the note, read it. And then for the first time in what felt like forever, he smiled. A real smile. Thanks, Mom. Pause, voice thick, 2 words. But they meant everything. Reflective, wise tone. It's been 8 months. Since that morning. 8 months since Tyler asked me why I stopped making his lunches. I'm still sober. Still waking up at 5 a.m. Still making those lunches with the stupid notes. And Tyler? He's still a teenage boy. Still moody, still private, still buried in his phone half the time. But he says thank you now. Not every day. But sometimes he'll come home from school, open the fridge, and casually mention something that happened. Actually have a conversation. Last week, he brought Emma home to study. Emma, the girl he's had a crush on since 7th grade. And before she left, he said, Emma, this is my mom. She makes really good sandwiches. Pause, crying softly. It wasn't, I love you, Mom. It wasn't thank you for everything you've sacrificed, but it was his way of saying, I see you. You matter. Here's what I've learned through all of this. Change is invisible most of the time. The people we're doing it for, our kids, our partners, ourselves, they might not notice the daily battles we're fighting. The small victories. The moments we choose to keep going when everything in us wants to quit. But that doesn't mean it doesn't matter. Tyler kept every note. He noticed me showing up at his games. He felt the difference in our home, even if he couldn't articulate it. And when I stopped, when I gave up, he noticed that too. If you're in the middle of changing, if you're fighting addiction, depression, anger, whatever demon has its claws in you, please know this. Someone is noticing. Even if they don't say it, and even if they're not, you owe it to yourself to keep going, because the person you're becoming, that person is worth fighting for. I'm still not the perfect mother. I still mess up. I still have days when I want to give up. But every morning I wake up at 5 a.m. I make Tyler's lunch. I tuck a note inside, and whether he keeps them or throws them away, whether he thanks me or forgets to, I know I'm doing what matters. I'm showing up. Consistently, imperfectly, but I'm showing up. And that makes all the difference. My name is Sarah. I'm 43 years old. I'm an alcoholic. And I'm someone's mom. And for today, that's enough. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe for more real stories about struggle, hope, and the invisible battles we all fight. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever felt invisible while trying to change? What keeps you going? Thank you for listening to my story.